everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at Alexandrian Archives, and today we're doing an individual book review for a book that I read quite a bit back. Let me just double check when I read it. So I did film a version of, I filmed a review for this, except that I think I either accidentally deleted the footage or I couldn't find it. I don't remember, but either way, so I read this back in April. So this is probably, oh dear, yeah, I forgot that's broken. Anyways, so this is late coming. However, it's not the end of the world, you know? So if you're new here, my name is Mila, you're Alexandrian Archives, and the way that the book reviewing works here, so to speak, is that I am trying to do book review for every book that I read. If I read a series back to back to back, I will review it in one video. If I read it with some time in between, I will review whatever books in whatever video. Like, I'll explain it to you in said videos. And the way that the book reviews are structured is pretty simple. I give you the synopsis. I then give you my thoughts and my rating somewhere along the way, and who I would recommend this for. That way you know sort of whether this book is for you based on who I would personally recommend it for. So the book in question is one you've probably seen me talk about on my Instagram. Like, I posted a review, I believe, and it's also in my story highlights, because I have story highlights of each book that I read, like a mini review, and it is called In a Certain Kingdom, Fairy Tales of Old Russia, translated and retold by Nicholas Kotar. So this is one I stumbled upon while browsing Amazon for Russian fairy tale books, because I wanted a copy of the Russian fairy tale books in English, one that I could annotate without feeling bad or without it being made of a specific type of paper that is difficult to annotate on, because I'm writing a middle grade that centers Russian fairy tales and Slavic folklore, so I wanted to obviously do some research by reading. There's a lot of reading involved. Honestly, it'd probably be easier for me to take a trip to a distant village that still does all these traditions and tells all these fairy tale stories and just take that, but it's not cheaper. Anyways, oh, I forgot my earrings. Oops. Anyways, give me a second, let me just put in my earrings. Anyways, so here is the synopsis, and if I'm looking to there, it is because I have my phone mirroring so I can see myself and make sure that it doesn't look weird and I'm centered and all that. And also I have the Notion book page, Notion page for the book on my computer, on the monitor, and it's there. So here is the synopsis. I'm just gonna make it bigger because I can't freaking. There we go. Okay. Synopsis: deathless villains that can't help dying, idiots who are wiser than kings, and everyone's favorite mortar-riding hag. These are not your tame, happily ever after fairy tales. The traditional fairy tale of Russia transport the reader to a fantastical world filled with danger, wonder, and ultimately consolation. They may be strange, they may be frightening, but Russian fairy tales take you to a place you never want to leave. Magical land of prophecy and adventure that helps you see your own life in vivid colors. This collection features 9 stories, translated and retold by award-winning fantasy novelist Nicholas Kotar. These aren't stuffy academic translations. These are retellings by a storyteller, easy to read and filled with wit and whimsy. Discover delightfully entertaining tales filled with princess, warrior queens, talking wolves, and everyone's favorite Baba Yaga herself. Don't miss In a Certain Kingdom, the first volume in an exciting new series of translations of classic Russian fairy tales and myth. So, as I said, I stumbled upon this on Amazon and I was like, I need to read this, I need to review it, I need to see what is going on here. So I read it, and I thought it was fantastic. For what it aims to do, I think it landed pretty solidly. So I guess here are my notes. I think that it was very nostalgic as someone who knows the originals in the original language. So I'm half Russian, and I speak it fluently. It's my mother tongue, it's my first language. And so seeing it in English versus knowing it in Russian, whether orally or reading it myself, was very nostalgic because I thought it was funny. Like the little quirks in Russian that you can't entirely translate in English. I thought it was interesting the way that the author translated it, and yeah, I think it was well translated, but some parts may seem silly if you don't have the background context or you don't know Russian, because when we call sort of one of the characters an idiot or something, it's not entirely meaning that he's, you know, an idiot. He is not the smartest, sure, but he's going to be the idiot character that has the luck that all the smarter characters want. So it's not exactly, you know, as an insult. It's more like a term of endearment, I'd say. But people may have other opinions on that. That's how I see it, because, you know, it's just a funny play on the name, you know? So yeah, some parts seem a little silly if you don't have the background context or don't know Russian. And overall, this is short. As it says, it's 9 stories, and they're pretty famous stories. I can't tell you off the top of my head, and my e-reader somewhere, I don't know if I have it on my new e-reader or if I had it on my old e-reader. Anyways, but I think this is, anyways, the next part is who I would recommend this for. Anyone who wants to start reading Russian fairy tales or Slavic fairy tales in general, just wants to get into the world of Slavic/Russian fairy tales, because a lot of these characters especially are known in the Slavic world, like in between like the Slavic countries and diaspora. It's not just Russia, obviously. However, a lot of these stories are very centered in Russia, so they're very Russia specific, and other Slavic countries may have other stories about these. So anyone who wants to start reading Russian fairy tales but is intimidated by the amount of them, because there are a lot. I have one of my great granddad's books of like Russian fairy tales, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. There's a lot. Anyone with kids, if you want bedtime stories, some might be a little bit dark, so you may want to omit some of the points that happen. However, I mean, I grew up on Russian fairy tales, I'm fine. And anyone with an interest in Russian culture, if you know Russian, for example, like at a beginner level, or even at like a fluency level, because if you don't read a lot in Russian, it may seem intimidating to start reading with like the regular stuff that you read in English, for example. You could always like find a copy in Russian, likely you'll have it, knowing Russian families and Russian speaking families, but specifically Russian families. And you could read this beside the story in Russian and sort of see how the language changes, the moral sort of changes, the emphasis changes. And it's very interesting to see, especially if you do speak more than one language, including Russian and English, and you have like an interest in linguistics and translation. I think that would be a very interesting thing to see, because you're like, oh, well, this seems different in English, whereas this is how I see it in Russian. So that's a very interesting point, I think, to see. And yeah, I think that this was really fantastic, and I love the cover, and I'm excited to read more by this author in this series once I find them. And yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. Follow me on all my socials. I will link the book down below at some point if you like to get it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. It's not particularly long. I did go on a bit of a tangent, but I hope that this is also a good book if you're feeling like you're falling into a reading slump and you want something short and quick and easy and fun. I would highly recommend this. So yeah, and if you have any other video requests you'd like me to do, let me know. As usual, follow me on all my socials, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading. Пока-пока!